Okay, let's discover which are those 5 parameters that you should really know in order to start working easily with lights in 3ds Max. Okay, first of all, let me describe which kind of scene I have in here. I have a couple of boxes, basically, and I have one camera inside this room. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I will change my viewport parameter by clicking standard. I will click lighting and shadows, and I will select illuminate with scene lights. And then by clicking again on same exact menu, I will enable shadows. These will give me the possibility to see in real time inside my viewport what happens if I change parameters into my lights. So, step 1, there are 2 kinds of lights that we are going to see as artificial light source. There are target light and free light. They have exactly same parameters. The only thing that will change is how you can move them, so that the target light will be moved by moving the target, so where they are pointing at, or moving light source position itself, or free light. Instead, there are those lights that you can simply move or rotate in order to change their position or change where they are projecting light. We will use free light just to make our life a little bit easier. And first thing first is I will just place one light inside my scene. Most of the times, because light is created on the XY plane, it may happen that light goes inside the floor of your simple project. So, in order to be sure that you are working with lights correctly, just move the light as a first thing to be done when you create it. And if you have correctly set your viewport, you will start viewing the effect of light in real time in your viewport. And this is first. Okay, so let's check parameter number 1. Parameter number 1 is very simple, and it is light can be on and off. So I won't consider this even a parameter. And let's go to a more interesting one, that is shadows. Shadows is basically a parameter that says that if our light is projecting light and it finds an obstacle, like we can quickly place a box here, for example, we can see that this light project lights, light hits the box and the box projects this shadow on all other objects. 99% of the times, I will say this parameter must remain on to avoid renderings with no contrast. But sometimes, only in certain cases, if we want to use a light just to fill the space with light, so we want to give I want to create just a brighter render, so only in those very few cases we may need to choose to turn off the shadow and just give our rendering a brighter look. If not, this parameter should always remain on, and it should always remain as ray traced, so that the shadow projected and created by the light basically calculates both the shape of objects that are hit by light and their materials by reading the transparency of materials that are applied to all our objects. Parameter number 2 is light distribution, and this basically is a parameter that explains how light goes from our light source. Only by default, when we create a light, this is set as uniform spherical. Uniform spherical means that from where our light is placed, light can go everywhere, and it goes from where we have placed the light. It goes up, it goes down, left, right, back, and forth. So basically, we can see that light will go by more or less making this kind of shape. So it will be a sphere of light. And we can change these because basically this is a quick way to simulate bulb lamps or tube lamps. We can change these by, for example, changing it into uniform diffuse, and this is in general best way to simulate LED lights. And uniform diffuse is a shape of light that is basically a sphere, but our light source is top vertex of our sphere, so our light distribution will work like this. So our light source won't be the center of the sphere, but will be the vertex, and the light will be dropped in this direction. Then we can also change the distribution into spotlight. Spotlight is a way to have our light focused in a more defined shape that is a cone of light, and our light will be very visible. Even from the icon, our light will have this kind of distribution. Okay. And fourth distribution type instead is photometric web. That basically means that we can use inside 3ds Max photometric files that are mostly known as IES files. When you install 3ds Max, you already have a certain selection of IES files, or you can just browse the web and find several websites where you can download. For example, I use this website here. It's called leomoon.com, and you can freely download a collection of interesting, especially architectural IES files. And the way that they work is very simple, and it is you choose photometric web, then you click choose photometric file button, and then you go to the folder where you have downloaded those files, and by browsing them you will have a small preview on how the shape of light, that is the distribution properly, will look like. So these will be like very thin, these will be a little bit wider, this will be a light, for example, I've seen one interesting light here. For example, number 9 will be a light that won't be projected on the ground, but it will go left and right. And by choosing these files, you click open, you will see that the light won't have a simplified shape like a cone or a sphere, but it will have a more realistic, intricate distribution type, and it will give a lot more realism inside your final projects. Okay, let's go to next parameter, and I will simply change these back to uniform diffuse just to have less things to deal with. So then we have color of light. Color of light can be changed by using several parameters, like we can select a preset from this drop-down menu, and this is one way to change color of light. If we know instead the exact color temperature of the light that we want to simulate, we can switch from the preset to Kelvin degrees, and we can type values in order to make our light from red to white to blue. For example, lower acceptable value is 8000 Kelvin. That will make our light very red. Then the more we increase this value, the more orange, then yellow, then milky white, then white, and then the bluish our light will become, till 20,000 Kelvin, that is maximum acceptable value. But if we want to obtain like the effect of using RGB colors, what we can do is actually we can use again the D65, that basically is pure white light, and by clicking inside this white rectangle that is called filter color, we can select any color in our hue, in our color selector here, and we can change the hue, we can change the whiteness, saturation, we can make it completely black, and this will also change the intensity of our light, or we can make it a very bright color, so not only the color affects the color itself, but especially the parameter that is whiteness changes our final intensity of light. Speaking about intensity, this is our next parameter. So below the color, intensity is a number that simply describes how bright, how strong our light will be. And this can be simply seen as a number that we can increase or decrease to make our light brighter or darker. But also it comes basically with the choice of 3 different units. There are lumens, candles, or lux at 1 meter. And this is something that simply changes according to which light we want to simulate. So if we go to a website and we see that intensity of light is described in lumens, let's say for a certain brand, we can really type the exact same lumen in this field, and this will give us a perfect simulation of that specific light. If we find instead light described in candles, we switch the units to candles, but the result will be the same. So the only thing that changes is the conversion factor between these 3 different units. Last but not least, we have the shape of light. And what this changes is, it changes how sharp and dark and covering are shadows, and it also makes, in some cases, light becoming renderable. If we keep light as a point, exactly as it happens in reality, a point of light is a dimension that is a shape that has no dimension, and we will see that the shadows projected by this light are super sharp and super black. But if we are using for example, a uniform spherical or a uniform diffuse, we can change the shape to sphere, and this will also correctly turn the distribution into sphere, and this allows us to change the radius. And exactly as it happens in reality, the bigger the light source becomes, the softer shadows will be. And we can also check when we choose especially sphere of light, or when we select a cylinder, we can also choose the option that is light shape visible in rendering. And what this does is, when we will hit render, we will see also our beautiful white glowing ball of light that is our light emitter. So we will see that shadow is soft. I hit render, and I will see, not in this case, I see reflections on the wall, plus I see my light source here. And there is only an interesting thing to know, that is, light shape is depending also on the light distribution that we set, and not all combinations are accepted by 3ds Max. So for example, if we use sphere of light, we will see that 3ds Max will lock our choices into photometric web or uniform spherical distribution, while if we change our shape, let's say to disc or rectangle, and we go back to our distribution type, we can see now that we can use our rectangular light source even if we are making, let's say, a spotlight. So our spotlight won't have that light that is so harsh, and the shape of the shadow will be so precise, but we can have a spotlight with soft shadows. Or if we want to simulate an LED strip that maybe is attached to the ceiling or below a certain furniture below the table, we can select rectangle. We can use uniform diffuse instead, and by going down into our shape of light, we can give our rectangle dimensions of a realistic LED strip, like 1 centimeter large and maybe 200 centimeters long. And this will simulate more correctly, and we will see that now it will change in real time. This will simulate more correctly the effect of an LED strip placed in that position on the wall, on top of the window, and so on and so on. So, if you like this video, or if I was able to help you in learning 3ds Max, let me know into the comment. Let me know which kind of problems you have in 3ds Max, and I will try to see if I can help you solving it. And as I usually say, have fun. Bye. So, if you find this video interesting or useful, leave a like and let me know with a comment, and why not make me questions for other videos or suggestions, and why not subscribe for more videos like this. And as usual, have fun. Bye.